This is CBC Vancouver News.
And this wall of flame just washed over the highway. It was literally that dramatic. An apocalypse. I'm scarred by it.
Breaking news as the entire city of Yellowknife is evacuated. We hear the harrowing stories of those who've already left. Plus,
so there was definitely, some nerves, I think, for everyone and a little bit of anxiety.
in the southern interior, dozens of tourists are ordered to shelter in place as flames cut off access to the only road out. And
this is a 200 square foot apartment in downtown Eastside.
why this viral TikTok video is generating all kinds of attention for all the wrong reasons. Good evening. I'm Tanya Fletcher. We begin with breaking news from the Northwest Territories. The entire city of Yellowknife is under an evacuation order tonight as the wildfire burns closer. Officials say without rain, the flames could reach the city by the weekend. Everyone is being ordered out by Friday at noon. This extraordinary evacuation order affects nearly 22,000 people. Mira Baines has our top story.
A mass exodus is underway from Yellowknife. People are being told to evacuate the city by noon Friday. So far, officials say the city is not in immediate danger, so people can still leave by road, but conditions can change quickly. Flights are another option, with numerous airlines and the military stepping in to help. No fatalities are reported.
I want to reiterate, the fire is not here. By issuing a community evacuation now, we can implement the evacuation plan while the highway is still open and with plenty of flights to fully evacuate everyone. Throughout this all, we'll continue to do everything possible to slow the growth of the fire and protect the community.
The first flight out leaves Yellowknife Thursday. But for people who are needing to shelter in place, they can go to the multiplex in the city. Evacuation centers in Alberta are filling up, and some people are being sent to Calgary. Another concerning wildfire is in Hay River. People who have left describe a terrifying scene.
And this wall of flame just washed over the highway. It was literally that dramatic. And trees just began exploding in the fire, just poof, 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 one after the other coming towards us. It was hell driving through this, and then you could see where game animals like bears and stuff had burned alive in the side. It was an apocalypse. I'm scarred by it.
People are being advised not to go to nearby islands or cabins on Great Slave Lake due to heavy smoke and poor air quality. There are more than 200 fires burning across the Northwest Territories. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
Meanwhile, a dramatic rescue has unfolded in the southern interior. At this time last night, a wildfire began closing in on a popular hiking and tourist area near Harrowing. Dozens of people were stranded when the only road out of the lodge they were staying at was engulfed by flames. As Brady Strachan reports, some now say at least part of the damage could have been prevented.
This dramatic footage was shot earlier this afternoon from one of the hikers rescued from Cathedral Provincial Park. The fire has burned trees, shrubs, and cattle fencing along several kilometers of the only road leading into the remote mountain park near Harrowing. And it cut off hikers, campers, and guests staying at a tourist lodge in the park.
So there was definitely, some nerves, I think, for everyone and a little bit of anxiety.
She and dozens of others were ordered to shelter in place late last night as the fire raged not far away. But today, officials escorted her and 70 others out through the fire zone to safety.
It doesn't look anything like it used to. I spent much of my childhood going up there to those campsites, and now a lot of it is completely gone on both sides of the road.
Tuesday afternoon, as temperatures rose into the high 30s, two fires, which have been burning for weeks near Harrowing, exploded in size. A massive plume of smoke was visible from all over the Okanagan, including from Kelowna, more than 100 kilometers away, where this time-lapse video was taken. Fire officials say the two fires have now merged into one, growing by 10 times their size over the day, and now cover an estimated 100 square kilometers. And today, frustration that these fires weren't prioritized weeks ago.
We're seeing a lot of similarities to the 2018 Snowy Mountain fire, where the decision to leave it and let it burn, and then we run into a situation where we're doing evacuation orders and, well, state of emergency evacuation order alerts all within an hour. It drives me, I'm very frustrated with this process about the decision to let things just go on their own.
But with the extreme conditions this summer and the record year for fires in the province, officials say crews can't be everywhere all at once.
Today we have a positive outcome where people from the park, the lodge, and along Ashnola Road are now out safe.
Fire officials say more hot weather and expected wind in the forecast is a concern for this fire and the many dozens of others that are burning across the province. Brady Strachan, CBC News, Kelowna.
That Crater Creek wildfire near Caramias is just one of 363 fires burning across the province tonight. There are 9 new fires in the past 24 hours that are considered out of control. A total of 9 communities remain on evacuation order BC-wide, and 51 are under alert. The BC Wildfire Service is bracing for conditions to worsen with an incoming cold front.
The Wildfire Service is very concerned about the upcoming ridge breakdown and what that could mean in terms of fire behavior. We would like to alert the public that there could be rapidly evolving fire behavior and fire behavior that could spread very quickly across the landscape. And so paying attention to any updates and alerts that are for your areas is very critical in the upcoming days.
Well, scores of temperature records across southern BC have smashed this week. The hottest spot during this heat wave so far, the town of Lytton, reaching 42.2 degrees yesterday. And with rising fire activity comes more smoke and ash, worsening the air quality in many parts of the province. If you're having a hard time getting some proper sleep in this heat, you are not alone. It can be challenging to get a good night's rest when temperatures don't cool by much overnight. Michelle Gassoub has been looking into the sleep science behind these hot summer nights.
On the hot streets of Vancouver, everyone has their own advice for how to cool down before bed.
Definitely just sleep with just your sheets. You don't need your whole blanket, and have a fan on in the room, even if you don't have AC. I think that makes a big difference.
And what about what do you wear to bed?
Pretty much nothing. A sheet. A sheet. I've got to have a sheet.
A fan and air conditioning. Yeah, essential. Otherwise, you're going to combust.
According to Statistics Canada, only 32% of homes in BC have air conditioning. And while the ideal room temperature to sleep maxes out at 28 degrees Celsius, many people are trying to sleep in homes that are 32 degrees or higher.
The optimal humidity for us to sleep in is 40 to 60%. And I went online and looked today, and in Vancouver it's 65% right now. So that makes it feel even hotter than the ambient temperature is telling us it is. So what happens there is we don't start to fall asleep until our core temperature starts to drop. And then about 6 hours after we fall asleep, our core temperature starts to go up. And that's our signal that it's time to wake up for the day. So you can imagine how hard it is when you're sleeping in a really hot room and your core temperature's not really dropping and it's staying high. So that signal that your body normally has about when to wake up gets messed up, excuse the expression, by having such a hot sleep environment.
Hall recommends putting a bowl of ice between you and your fan, sleeping in breathable cotton or linen sheets, sucking on ice cubes before bed, and finally, avoid alcohol. That can cause night sweats. And if you do share a bed with someone, keeping your distance may be best to avoid overheating.
You could try sleeping bottom to top, so you've got a little bit more room rather than both trying to sleep, with your heads at the same place. And sleeping like a starfish is supposed to help. So really spreading out so that there's more sweat happening and evaporating.
Cool marine air rolling in tonight is expected to bring some reprieve on the coast, but with humidity still high, embracing your inner starfish tonight could bring some much-needed shut-eye. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, China has left Canada off a list of approved travel destinations for tour groups. The move comes as the tourism industry tries to recover to pre-pandemic numbers. As John Hernandez reports, BC is poised to be among the hardest hit by this policy.
Travel agent Glynis Chan has been trying to get back on her feet ever since the pandemic. She lost her office as business dried up. She'd often work with group tour operators in China.
We book everything for them on behalf, so that's how we make our business, and then that will be good revenue to us.
Business that won't be coming back anytime soon. Last week, China lifted a pandemic ban on group tours in dozens of countries, including the United States. But Canada was left out.
I feel kind of a little bit frustrated because we don't see the green light to help us to pick up our regular business as 2019 or before.
The move comes amid strained diplomatic ties between the countries, but is expected to leave a particularly gaping hole in BC's tourism economy. In 2019, Chinese travelers made well over 300,000 visits to the province and spent a lot of money. Each traveler spent over $2,000 on average.
It's very concerning. China was a very important market for us prior to the pandemic, and we expect it to be a growing and important market for us in future. And having this designation by China means a delay in that process.
Chinese citizens can still travel independently here, but the number of flights to Vancouver from China have plummeted since the pandemic. Destination BC hopes that could change if Canada gets back on China's list.
Once we have that, then we're expecting the flight capacity to increase, directly from mainland China.
Still, Destination BC says the tourism economy has rebounded substantially since 2020, with travelers from other provinces, the U.S. and Mexico picking up a lot of the slack.
A lot of the attractions and hotels and local suppliers are doing quite well this year from a lot of those other markets.
A tourism economy that's back on the rise, but still missing its biggest spenders. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
A viral video marketing a downtown Vancouver apartment is getting attention for not quite the right reasons. The square footage is low and the rent is high, and the company that owns the building is facing controversy for the way it is renovating its units. Justin McElroy has more on the TikTok ad and the outrage.
The Lotus Hotel. It's a building on the edge of Vancouver's downtown east side, next to a quirky mall, and home to a very strange marketing pitch.
This is the neighborhood. This is a 200 square foot apartment in downtown east side. This is your living room. This is the price.
This was the start of a video by a real estate marketing company posted on TikTok and Instagram yesterday. But this was deleted after hundreds of comments pointed out that the tone was just a little off. Now, whether the video was genuine or intended as satire is unclear, as the company declined comment. What we do know is the apartment listing and the price was very real. This is the posting on Craigslist. This is the posting on the property management company's website. And who used to live in these units before they were renovated, you might ask? Often people who didn't have anywhere else to go. For you see, the Lotus is an SRO. Many of the units have tenants renting for under $1,000 a month. And the Toronto-based company that owns the building have been offering people living in unrenovated units $15,000 to leave.
And we talk with a lot of people from the buildings. They're like, yeah, no, that happens all the time. So to pay attention to that, I was like, okay. And that's what we did. And we're still living here like chill, kind of.
Juanita and her boyfriend are two of the many residents who have received those letters. They are students moving out in 2 months on their own volition. Others likely have less options, though. It's a situation that the city is alarmed about. But because the Supreme Court struck down their attempt to install vacancy controls, they have few options.
For the time being, our hands are pretty much tied because the SRO housing bylaws that we have in place really only protect the typology of these sort of single-room occupant units. They don't protect the price point.
And all of this in a context of a rental situation that, even by Vancouver standards, is getting more and more difficult for those most in need. This is a chart. The average asking price for a one-bedroom in this city is now above $3,000, making a $2,000 unit, no matter how small, a comparative steal. Meanwhile, hours after the marketer deleted her video, the property management company deleted their Craigslist posting for the apartment. They didn't respond to a request for comment as to why it was removed. Neither did the Toronto-based owners of the property, making this story almost as much of a mystery as how anyone making under 6 figures affords this city. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
In other news today, a counselor with the Coquitlam First Nation has been found dead and a man is under arrest.
This is a quickly evolving situation. We wanted to get this information out to you because I know there's been a lot of speculation about Miss Patterson's well-being. There's a lot of people out there. Obviously, we're very concerned for her safety, and tragically, this is where we've resulted.
Stephanie Patterson's body was discovered yesterday in a rural area west of Mission by locals in the area. She was reported missing last Friday. The man in custody has not yet been charged. Meanwhile, homicide investigators also gave an update on the Surrey Temple shooting of a Sikh leader in June.
We believe that the driver of the Camry was waiting on 121 Street in the Camry, waiting for the two suspects before and during the homicide. Investigators have now confirmed there was a third suspect involved in the murder.
Police believe the third suspect drove two others away from the scene in the vehicle. Investigators have released surveillance photos of that vehicle along with a blurry image of the suspect. Investigators are asking anyone who recognizes them to contact police. The woman who impersonated a nurse in BC and in fact right across North America is facing yet another round of criminal charges. This time, Brigitte Clairot is facing allegations from her time at a private surgery clinic in Victoria in 2020. She's charged with fraud, impersonation, assault, and using forged documents during her brief employment at View Royal. She worked there for 3 weeks before Island Health took over the facility. Clairot has amassed dozens of charges while employed in BC, Alberta, Colorado, and Ontario. That's where she's currently serving a 7-year prison sentence. After a rough couple of days and delays, it was finally all aboard on Hullo Ferries. The new company completed its maiden voyage for the first time today, 2 days after it was supposed to launch.
Again, building up that trust through demonstrating to everyone that we have safety and reliability at the forefront of our minds. We're never going to do anything that jeopardizes that.
It was a rough start to the week after numerous cancellations due to both strong winds and a power outage. And while the inaugural voyage made it today between Nanaimo and Vancouver, some of Hullo's other scheduled sailings today were canceled. Up next, search operations continue in Maui as more grim discoveries are made. We'll have the very latest from Hawaii after the break. Stay with us. And thank you for watching our commercial-free live stream. A PEI man will be heading to the Invictus Games in Germany. The event features hundreds of veterans and military members from all over the world who are dealing with mental and physical injuries. And as lawyer Laura Meter tells us, a big part of their therapy is connected to sport.
Kenton Dill knows his family and friends are rooting for him as he gets ready for Invictus Games. This is a regular training day, but in a few weeks he'll be in front of a much bigger crowd in Germany.
The ups and downs of emotion, nerves, stress, questioning if you're ready, if you're mentally ready, if you're physically ready, being scared as well as being excited.
This is basically everything that he's worked for, and I'm just really proud that he's going to be able to show his skills and stuff and represent his country, which is awesome. I'm going to be there cheering him on the whole time, which is, I'm very excited for that, very excited to be able to see him succeed.
He will compete in rowing, swimming, and seated volleyball. He's one of 31 athletes on the Canadian team. The goal of the Games is to help sick or injured members of the military and veterans. Kenton Dill has physical and mental injuries from the 24 years he spent in the military.
I felt so alone, and then once you go to Invictus and you go to the first training camp, it's just an explosion of emotion, and they won't let you go. Like they got you, and you finally realize they get it.
And making sure that they can find a new passion in life and make sure they get out of sometime of that very dark place where they are.
Coaches say Dill is a talented athlete and a major player on the Canadian team.
He make a real impact on this team with his very disciplined person, very calm person. Is a great leader in that team.
He says it's rehabilitation through sport. Kenton Dill says he's always in touch with teammates and trainers, and athletes can also talk to medical staff and therapists. The Canadian team will train together for a few days next month before heading to Germany. Dill hopes to do well, but it's not about getting a medal. He says it's about military people from all over the world supporting one another.
To lift each other up and to be inspired by other nations and their stories, and them doing the same for us is something that's going to be spectacular.
The Invictus Games takes place in Dusseldorf, Germany, September 9th to the 16th. Laura Meter, CBC News, Summerside.
Well, to Hawaii now, where officials have begun identifying the victims of last week's wildfire. The number of dead now stands at 106. But as Lindsay Duncombe tells us, many more than that are still missing.
For the first time since the fire went through Lahaina, the highway is open, allowing traffic to pass through and allowing residents to go back and see what's left of their homes. There's National Guard checking to make sure people actually live in Lahaina before they go in. But from this vantage point, we can see just how vast the damage and how quickly that fire moved. The ground is completely charred. There's a sense of smoke in the air. What's happening in the community behind us is that continued grim search for survivors, but you can just see how destructive that fire was. This vehicle, obviously abandoned, totally charred. There is nothing left on the inside. The seats are melted, the metal is broken, the tires completely gone. A scene that is repeated throughout this community. Just absolutely devastating damage. And the question now is, how difficult will it be for people to rebuild? I've spoken to people who said, you know what, when it comes to vehicles and to apartments, they don't have insurance for that as well. And we are hearing that the move forward as people begin to get inside to these communities is going to be one of a realization of just how difficult rebuilding will be. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, near Lahaina.
Here's a live shot looking towards Woodward's Plaza with the port in the background. And yes, we are nearing the end of this heat wave. We'll see how the long-range weather picture is shaping up after the break.
August 31st, 1957. Elvis Presley plays Vancouver's Empire Stadium. It's the city's first big rock concert. The local responsible for bringing Presley here is disc jockey Red Robinson, who introduced him that night.
It was unbelievable. People, it's like the day that John F. Kennedy was shot. People can always remember where they were. But I've heard over the years so many stories, like I was there and I remember you on the stage and I remember Elvis, and it's like a focal point for all of their lives. The anticipation of Presley coming, I mean, what can I say about it? It was phenomenal.
It's one for the money, two for the show. But you get ready now, go, cat, go, but don't you step on my blue suede shoe.
The concert was a sellout, 25,000 fans. With the King on stage, it was a recipe for hysteria. 5 minutes after Elvis appeared, the crowd in the bleachers rushed the field. Soon, a huge mob stormed the stage. To escape it, Elvis and his band ran off. A scheduled 1-hour concert was cut after 22 minutes.
The Empire Stadium concert got big play in the Vancouver media, but not the kind you'd expect today. The Sun headlined its story, Presley Fans Demented, and listen to these excerpts from the article. Vancouver teenagers were transformed into writhing, frenzied idiots of delight by the savage jungle beat music. Troublemakers turned Presley's one-night stand into the most disgusting exhibition of mass hysteria and lunacy this city has ever witnessed.
It was John Kirkwood who wrote that article. Now he's a freelance writer. When Elvis played Vancouver, Kirkwood was a 24-year-old reporter. Today, he says his story was overblown.
I was going overboard a bit, and I was editorializing, which you're not supposed to do as a reporter. You know, I wasn't a columnist at that time. I was just a reporter, but somehow I got away with it. But I think I was wrong there, I admit it. It wasn't a mass exhibition of lunacy. You know, I was carried away, and obviously the editors were carried away because they went along with it.
The negative reaction to Elvis was nothing new. In Vancouver, as elsewhere, rock and roll had a bad reputation.
This was a tremendous departure from the music world that had existed, all nice and candy-coated. So all of the adults who were writing about it couldn't relate to it. There'd never been anything like this except Frank Sinatra in the 40s, but not of this frenzy, not of the pounding departure from jazz or pop music.
Elvis's departure from mainstream music influenced a lot of local musicians. And while his influence may have dwindled with the years, it was important in the early stages of Vancouver's rock scene.
I think he was an impetus.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
The Punjabi Market Live Festival returns on August 27th, and CBC Vancouver is proud to be the exclusive media partner. Enjoy live entertainment, great food, and family activities. Event info at monsoonartsfest.ca. And on September 16th, join CBC Vancouver at the second annual Come Toward the Fire, a free outdoor festival celebrating Indigenous community, culture, and creativity.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a look at the forecast. Darius, I've lost track of how many weather or temperature records have been broken for 3 days now. What's the latest on that?
Well, it was another scorcher across the province today. Through the south, we had temperatures hit the mid, even high 30s once again. We didn't see anywhere hit 40 today, so a little bit of good news, I suppose. We did have a few places forecasted to break temperature records, but they didn't quite make it, in large part because in addition to trapping all that heat, the high pressure system has also been trapping lots of smoke. So in some of these areas like Nelson and Cranbrook, we just had a lot of smoke locked in place that stopped the sunlight from getting to those areas and reaching those temperature records. So not great news about all the smoke, but we did not see temperature records broken today. Not like yesterday. We saw many temperature records. We took a preliminary look yesterday, but we saw as many as 6 communities hit 40 degrees yesterday. Many broke temperature records, I think 19 or 20. So definitely a real scorcher yesterday, carrying into today, and that had real implications for the fire danger. It went up once again, so just really shocking compared to where we were at last week, how quickly our fire danger rating shot back up, and it looks like we are going to keep seeing it rise. We have another really hot day tomorrow with high temperatures throughout the south. Friday is when our temperatures start to come down, or really jump down, because we're at seasonal or below seasonal throughout the southern interior as this cold front moves through. Saturday, same story once again, but it's not all good news. Even as our temperatures do come down, we're going to see lots of wind in those areas. That cold front moving through is going to leave lots of wind and unsettled weather in its wake, leaving the possibility open for dry lightning. Winds gusting up to 50 kilometers per hour in parts of the southern interior. So not necessarily a great story heading into this weekend, but we'll keep an eye on it for tomorrow. Just be prepared for lots more heat through the south, a bit of cloud moving into the north, but it'll be pretty similar to today. And for Vancouver, similar story. Come down a little bit, but we have lots of sun still in the forecast.
We'll look forward to those more seasonal temperatures. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
And that is your late news for this Wednesday. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.